Hey, Karen Murray. Uh, Patty, hi. Good to see you. Hi, Angie. I hope I'm coming in clear with everyone and you can hear me okay. Hey, Lynn. Hi. Hi, everyone. Yes. Oh, good, good, good. Yeah, Karen. Thank you. Thank you, Angie. Everyone. I appreciate that. So, Diane, hey. Yay. Perfect. Yay. Love it. All right. Love it. All right. I want to welcome everyone here, and there'll be some more people coming in and out, which is fine. And today in the Boulder area, we had something like, oh my God, almost 70 degrees, something like that, and sunny and real pleasant. Good. Yay. All right. Now, let me get rid of this. All right, a couple things I want to mention. The push is going to be starting for the apprentice training. If anyone's interested in that, that's on the, well, also Lynn will post some information if you don't mind, Lynn, please, for the apprentice training on April 16th, 17th, and 18th, I believe it is. It's a Thursday, Friday, and a Saturday. All day events, 3 full days. So please do take advantage of that. And anyone who's ever taken the actual apprentice training before, it's always 50% off immediately. And for any of the classes, really, if you've taken the exact same class that's being offered online, if you've taken it in person, it's 50% off. And even for the people who've taken it in person, if I'm in your town or city, hey, Kathy, then it's 50% off, even if they're in person or online. It doesn't matter, of the same class being offered. Uh, Thanks for being here, Kathy. Good. Let's see. Other than that, so the push is on for that, and I want to start filling that up if possible and get it going. That's going to be again on April 16th, 17th, and 18th, I believe. Then, um, for people that want to have appointments with me, I am available, so please do take advantage of that. Uh, I'm in town or on the telephone. A lot of people ask me, and have been asking me over a period of time, hi, um, as far as the difference between a telephone appointment and a physical appointment. There really there is no difference as far as the healing goes. And hey, Mariko, good to see you here. Good to see you. Thanks for being here with us. And there's just no difference between the telephone appointment and the physical appointment. They go by a different format, and I'm fine with that. I think it's just as effective going into other points that we wouldn't be able to otherwise. Something that happens, which is really neat, when it's on the telephone, uh, people get to be comfortable in their own space, whether it be in a car or at home or in a room locked away or whatever, where they're not going to be disturbed, and uh, they're able to express themselves differently, which is fantastic. And what I have to do is really tune into that expression or the focus, and that helps me to help a person in their healing process. So um, it's awesome, and sometimes we can, or most often, I should say, we can get to causes and pretty quickly too. And so take advantage of that if you do have the opportunity for the telephone appointment and the physical appointment. Take advantage of that too if you're ever wherever I am and in my travels. So I do a lot of appointments here, um, on the telephone or in person. So, other than that, I don't know what else is happening. I'll be going to Tucson doing the Healing Circle, and also that's in March 27th, I believe, if I'm correct. I'll be in Tucson at 7 o'clock at night at Unity of Tucson there. And then I'll be doing a workshop the next day. The appointments are all booked. So if anyone wants a telephone appointment or wait until the next time that I come there, that's fine. And the workshop has a bunch of people already signed up. So if you want to go to the workshop, do it to it. It's a one-dayer, and it's very experiential. And I highly recommend it if you were to ask me. I think every workshop, every apprentice training, everything that I've ever done has been totally different from any other. And I'm always constantly growing. And it's a wonderful thing for me and for you. So do take advantage of that if you can. Please do. Hi, Sue Faith. Good to see you. Welcome. Thanks for being here. And also remember that after whoever's missed anything or walks away for a little bit to get water, do whatever you're going to do, or other tasks or whatever, this will be replayed within a few minutes of us finishing. It'll be available online in this group. Please do join this group if you're not a member already, and I'll approve you. I just want to make sure you're not someone that's not real, and that's all. And then I say, yeah, sure. So you have availability to watching this. I will be offering classes online. Some will be paid for, some won't be paid for, some will be instructional, some will be understandings. And there'll be also like 3-minute or 5-minute or 10-minute talks by me of on various understandings, and I'll be sharing those with you, and they will be free as well. So, hi Eileen, good to see you. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. And so again, please do come back to the replay of this. It'll be posted about approximately 5 minutes after, unless I forget. So, and that's happened too. And Lynn's reminded me, and so in any case, if there's any questions, anyone, if we have time, if you post them, I'll do my darndest to go ahead and answer them. I have several questions now, thankfully, and let me make sure this is going here on my Facebook. Here we go. Yay! All right, it's working. All right. So, in any case, the first question, I wanted to just to add a little bit to what my friend, my dear friend Lindsay, question from last week was, and she wrote, my kids have asked me to go to church because they have a friend that goes, and it's a non-denominational Christian church, but not Unity. And I'm struggling with the teachings of we are sinners and hate the flesh. All of this belief in separation, I don't think I can keep subjecting them to that. Well, firstly, I wanted to put my 2 cents in, saying, just different strokes for different folks in different churches. And it's all part of our evolution. You notice there's so many times that in growing up, there's many families and many individuals who go to one church, and then there's an argument that happens or something transpires, and then all of a sudden we find ourselves not liking that or saying something against it, then we find ourselves dropping out in some way or another, or finding reason to. Then we go to another church, and uh, it just keeps on going. Some people have been fortunate enough to stay with the same church or synagogue or whatever for uh, millions of years, for 15, 20 years, 30 years, whatever, and or a church or synagogue that stayed in the family. And the whole lineage goes there forever and ever. But many people I've known will keep jumping from church to church to church. Well, sometimes what happens is, and oftentimes, I should say, not sometimes, but oftentimes, what happens with that kind of a situation, and with the jumping from church to church to church, is that here we are, evolving. We're growing, but we're finding reason to get out in order to do that. And we're always experiencing different atmospheres, different understandings, different teachings from every church or every group or every synagogue that we're becoming a part of. So it's a evolution. So it doesn't have to be taken in a derogatory or a negative way or a destructive way. It can be seen as something creative, and everything is okay. And that in turn leads to our justifying ourselves less for doing something. And I think that's an important part of life. It's okay, and it's okay to put the brakes on the wheels when something uh, is not of a nature that we believe or trust. And so I just wanted to express that with Lindsay's comment. And also, I wanted to add a little bit to Roxy's question from last week. Excuse me, I live hoarse now. Um, Roxy wrote, "We are licensed practitioners, a lot of us, and our programs are your programs able to give us CEU credits? And once we go through your program, can we start our own circles and use your stuff in our practices?" And I say 100% of using my stuff. I love it. And you can integrate it into yours. You can learn from me, and I'll gladly share everything and anything I can to the best of my ability and from my heart. And uh, so, uh, yes, you can use this stuff in your practices. You can use this just by itself in what I teach, which you'll find quite amazing. Or you can use it and integrate it with what you already know in your life that works, and which is quite amazing. Uh, or you can just pull something from it, at different times. Things will come to you of things that I've said. They'll come to you for years and years and years. And there's other understandings that come with uh, what I'm trying to share with you. And so hopefully it'll evolve like that with you. And as far as the CEUs, if there's particular organizations, if you can tell me what they are, Lynn will be really glad, I'm sure, to grab the names of the organizations of who to approach with CEUs. We have talked about it before, and you re-stimulated the mental gyrations about that. So please, do share if there's any specific organizations that you want us to approach for CEUs. And we'll be glad to do that and take a look at that and do that. And we have actually started the work. And another thing that Roxy wrote, was, "I need to ask the divine what my body needs to eliminate, etc., for the inflammation, etc." So much is happening with new life, and you've gone through a lot, Roxy, and I know that. And so, but as you evolve, the world is evolving as well. Everything is an influence. Even the analogy of the caterpillar going into or forming the cocoon around it, and then it eats its way out, and it affects the air pressures, it affects the heats, um, uh, combustion. It just lots of things it affects, and then it spreads its wings finally, stretches them, and everything goes into place, and then it takes flight. But even as that butterfly is taking flight, it's affecting the current to a tiny, tiny degree, but it's still affecting the current, which is like a ripple effect in a pond. It keeps going out. And sure, it dissipates after a while, but it's still affected something that even the air is carrying, the wind is carrying. So it's all there. It's all there. Everything changes, Roxy, and everything is affecting everything else. Everything is so totally synchronistic in our life. She wanted me to talk about the little fragments of light that I talk about, that we see that is carry a story of what we ask for. She's referring to what I refer to as, say, the morphic fields, the fields of information that come forth from us, as quantum science refers to it. And we want to see what will be good for the other person, not to be a psychic or a seer, etc., but for them, and as I wrote. And then we are out of the way. But we might see a story pertaining to their life that has to do with what needs to be mentioned and heard. This is what I wrote that she talked about. Well, I do begin to teach this process in the apprentice training, whoever's interested. Hey, Cindy Sharp, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. And again, I do teach this in the apprentice training, in observing the light and perceiving through what we call our intuition, which really means inner teaching. And for many, and afterwards, hey Jess, thanks for being here. I appreciate it a whole lot. And so for many and afterwards, it's like a seed being planted, and at times it takes time to develop, and depending upon how conscious we want to be when working with someone. And it's similar to sitting in front of someone and in really deep, deep desire to listen to them, and all of a sudden, here we are in conversation with them, and we're listening to something deeply that they're saying to us and expressing to us with all their heart. And all of a sudden we see a tiny little movement, say a twitch of the finger like that when it's on their knee, or when their arms are like this, and then all of a sudden we see a twitch of the finger like that. There's something that happens. If we take notice, you'll see that in their little body adjustment or a twitch of a baby finger, in less than a second of a time, we have a flash of information. Not always are we conscious of that, though, and we'll have a thought, but we go back to listening to them. And so if we observe that while they're expressing, then if we observe that thought, if we train ourselves to look at that thought, it's actually something we're perceiving in our mind that is telling a story. It's an aspect about their life. And that's what's actually helped them to form into who they are, what they are, and why they are today. It's in the moment and coming into the light in a small piece of their story. And that's the fragment. That story is a tiny little fragmented. It's nothing, but it tells a lot. For every fragment, there's just tons of information that we can perceive. I usually see it as an analogy of uh, we're always emanating light from within ourselves through the oxygenation, through the phosphorus that's emitting with the oxygenation triggering it, etc. And we have a light around us that's coming forth from within us. And no different than the icons that we see in churches or synagogues. There's light. Even Moses had a light around him. And so, and Jesus and the saints, etc. And that has, I see that light is composed of little porcupine quills of light that are always emanating out from us, but they come from the particle into the wave in my perception and my understanding. And we're perceiving that wave, those particles, and I call it a little porcupine quill of light. And so each little porcupine quill of light has tons of information. And so we can perceive those, and according to our needs of what we need to see, what we need to understand. And they're small pieces of a story, of a large story, but it's made the person, and this is the important part, those little pieces that we do see, they make the person into who they are, what they are, and why they are today. Those experiences of the person. And we get to perceive those things when we're, say, working with a person. That's when it's most conducive. And we allow it to come into consciousness within us. So it is available to us. Sometimes, and just sometimes, keep in mind, I refer to myself as a seer, not a psychic or anything like that, as a seer. And that's what I call it, that's what I prefer, the name of. But it only happens in moments during the day or night. It's not constant. It's just, it can't be for me. For it to be fluent, or more fluent, I should say, within me, there has to be a much greater devotion in my life, and which I haven't chosen at this time in my life. And so this is what my preference is. And I'm kind of glad in my life that I don't always perceive things. It's only when I'm focused, when I'm working with a person, that's my preference. And so, but we all have that within us, is what I'm trying to say. And if it's within us, we have the availability to it as we develop our ability to focus and really come from our heart in wanting to hear or see another person. And it's not going to be the normal interactions that we have with daily and saying, "Hey Joe, how the heck are you?" You know, using different words instead of heck. And so it's not going to come at those times. It will come in the times that we're concerned from our heart, and that we care from our heart. That's when it happens. So I hope that it truly makes sense. And so that will answer more of what Roxy wanted to know about. Tanya, my friend, and she wrote, "This is so awesome. Mark had told me that during a visit that someone very close to me was having a very beautiful baby girl, but there wasn't any pregnancies, or at least that I was aware of. Needless to say, just a bit later we found out my oldest daughter was pregnant, and now I have a 4.5-year-old beautiful granddaughter." And you know, that goes along with what I had just talked about. When we're working with a person, they may not even know it yet. We're seeing potential future event sometimes, and the intuition is sharing with us of things that remotely or unremotely, very, abruptly pertain to our life and things that we participated in. So we're going to see these things. And just like at the Circle one time in Phoenix, and first story that comes to mind, excuse me, there were several people in Scottsdale there, and I think everyone was standing up. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But I was doing something, and then all of a sudden I saw there were a bunch of new people there at the Circle, and all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, through my peripheral vision, that's how we get to witness acts of God, so to say, or understandings or visuals of things, miracles, what we call miracles. We're the miracle. There are no miracles. We're the miracle. And so we get to experience these things through the peripheral vision. And one time I was turning around in the Circle, and I saw the woman to my right with the peripheral vision with a mask over her face of an older gentleman. And I knew then that it was her husband who had just passed, and I told her, and she started crying, which is healthy, and then I had a communication from her husband that all was well, and then I finished and I started turning around. Then all of a sudden, there was a little boy. There was a woman that had lost a little boy that was just the other day prior to that Circle. And so, I communicated a message from that, and which is reason really why people are attracted to us, not knowing why they're coming to this event or what they're going to be doing, etc., etc. Or whatever they're there for, something will give relief unless they're in total denial. And so we have these things within us to share with people. Through the peripheral, we get to witness these things as we learn to develop that and act on it without playing psychic. Because once we start playing psychic, there's one on every street corner. But once we learn to develop the ability of focus, these things happen more often. I don't work on this to practice this as a practice in my life. I refer to it as spontaneity of the spirit, and that's the way I like to see it. So when it happens, it happens. When it doesn't, it doesn't. Sometimes I'll have my hand on someone or scanning further away from them and feeling the morphic fields that come forth. And I'll wonder, what is this? What is this? Then all of a sudden I'll get a vision of them, of what created that dynamic in their life that affected them physiologically once they might have had an injury or a situation happen, or it might be a vision of a confrontation of some sort, an emotional confrontation, or some horrible dynamic that happened in their life. But nothing's going to be shown that isn't your business, and for you to express. Nothing, or else it wouldn't be shown to you. There have been many a times I say, okay, God, what is this? I can't see it. And I look deeper and deeper and deeper within myself. And sometimes I'm told, none of your business. I say, hey, fine with me, God, you're bigger than me. And I keep on doing my work. And other times I'm told, just keep on working. And I say, okay, boss. And so I'll keep on doing that. So we have these things that are available, and it's just learning to develop them, to the best of our ability. And when we think that we got it down is when we're just beginning. And that's just the way it works. No matter how evolved we think we are, we're not. and I always keep that in mind as well. Uh, and sometimes it's good to have a lot of humility, and it's realizing we really don't know anything, and that's the best place to be, I believe, is realizing that we don't know anything. So, and I'm sure a lot of people here have had experiences of these things, and if not, let me help you. I'll help you to open up to that during the workshops or the apprentice trainings or whatever. Uh, um, so, in any case, um, yes, we are somewhat of a young planet, and as we are 4 billion years old, supposedly, and various forms of humankind um, have been here. So, this is from my friend Michelle. Thanks, Kathy. And this is from my friend Michelle. And she says, "Thank you for your healing blessings. Mark, I wanted to share." Oh, I worked with her the other day. Um, and it was for her dog and for her as well. Um, and thanks for your healing blessings, Mark. And I wanted to share that my. Hi, Michelle. Hi, how are you? We're just reading this thing here. And um, she said, "Thanks for the healing blessings, Mark. I wanted to share that my dog was found in a dark room staring into a corner last night during the blessing for him." Thanks for sharing that. And and how interesting. And he was much more active today as well. Good. I'm so glad to hear that. And I hope he's doing better, Michelle. Um, um, as you were too. Yes. I had a noticeable improvement today, even if I still have pain and discomfort. I'm glad you did. And um, I will work more with you, Michelle, as well. And she wanted to schedule a private session, which she did. She's in Indianapolis, so please, and just remember that if you're out of state, I love working with people from over the telephone. It's good. And my friend Sue, let's see how we're doing. We're doing good. My friend Sue Cavas, she's my hub in the Scottsdale area for Arizona workshops and events, etc. And she said, a client with many health challenges told me she was going camping with female friends. And all of a sudden, she heard herself saying, Sue heard herself saying, talk to the mountains, and laugh a lot. I think that's awesome. I think that's totally awesome. It hit me how nature, for me, has the answers of oneness with all, for many people. And it's just lovely if we can be a part of that environment in our lives, and if we can take our time and even go, even if you live in a city, going out to a park, or just or focusing on a tree, and that might be a block away. You're looking at out your window. If you can focus on that, there's a change that happens, a transition that happens within you. I think it's wonderful to focus on nature and find that oneness within you. Can going inside for some people, be their music, art? It can be music, it can be art, it can be nature, it can be hiking, it can be horseback riding, it can be doing crafts. I hope this makes sense, she said. Hi, Sue. Yes. And it's, these activities have answers within us. As we're participating in something, we're focusing on it, we're also experiencing the joy within ourselves. And yes, there's answers in that, and there's also healing in that. It's taking us out of what's inhibiting us. It's taking us out of what's creating a derangement within us, um, of falling away from that divinity within us that's alive and well within us. There was one time, and I don't remember if I told this story the last time, but there was this one woman who came to me. She had cancer. Uh, and during the appointment, she was expressing this and asked me to work with her, and I did. And then it came to me as I was working with her to tell her an exercise, and I shared it with her. And the exercise was uh, going to, this is spring in Chicago, so all the dandelions are coming up and everything. And I told her to go to, her front yard and start picking the dandelions. And every single time she picks one by the deepest root, she's picking a piece of a cancer out. And she heard, and she, heard really deep within herself what I had just, said. And I said, every single time, know that you are picking a piece of that cancer out. And that's what came to me to tell her. And so she said, okay. So she came back to me a couple weeks later and said she was feeling so good in her life. And it was a couple months later that she had another appointment. She came back and she said the doctors are blown away. They can't find the cancer. And so I said, well, what has this contributed to? It contributed to. And she says, well, when you told me to go pick the, dandelions by the roots, and every single time I was going to pick it by the roots, it came out of me as well. And so I ran out of my front yard dandelions, so she went to her backyard dandelions, and she picked those too. And then she went to neighbors, and every single neighbor she expressed what she was doing. And I said, go at it, pick my dandelions. And she picked them by the roots, and she picked the cancer out of her. That was her belief system, what she believed, what she be-lived. She lived it ahead of time, and she did it joyfully, and she did it knowingly. And that's what was important for her. And so I think we all have this ability within us, and to adapt it to whatever we're working with in our life. If there's something in our way, find something that we can fix it with in our life. And even certain foods, food groups, and or working with various modalities are there to help us. There's no one thing for one person. And I don't care how great it is affecting one person. If someone has this new modality coming out, that's fantastic. But is it going to work with everyone? I don't know that. And I've seen many people try something, and a lot of those people have no effect at all, or they have something that's not good for them. It's good for some people, but it may not be good for others. So please do keep that in mind. There's one woman now that I'm working with. I'm working with a lot of women with cancer, lots. And I used to say one out of every 30 or 40. Then I started saying one out of 25%. Of the people that I'm working with, a quarter of the people. Now I'm saying a third or more people I'm working with cancer. And one in particular, she refused to do the chemo. And even in working with some of the other modalities that are out there, she started taking on. And as she's working with me, she's telling me how great she feels, despite the fact that she was supposed to have passed. And she is remarkable and has expressed that she has done a lot of the self-discovery as well. And that's contributing. Everything is contributing to the new us and who we want to be. And it's the new us and who we want to be is what we live. We live ahead of time. We turn that into the new us and what we want to live. And sure, Diane, that is, I love that too. Yes, very much so. Thanks, Patty. And so it's a self-discovery in not only in the mental um, or the you know the physiological, and also in the psychological in every way. It's a new discovery of who we are, and the emotional just changes, and something happens to us in our bodies. Something that happens is that change, and we get to notice that change. We hopefully will not try to figure out the change, and once we start figuring it out, then we're trying to be in control. So the idea is to allow it to happen. That's what's most important for this. And sometimes it's getting used to um, getting out of the place that we were, and that's when we get to see the change happen and to find the freedom within. Um, and sometimes it, the change might even that we're helping someone through or working with ourselves. Sometimes we're helping them to experience death. And there's nothing incorrect about that. There's nothing to be afraid of. It's death from this orb. When they die there, they come here. And so, which is the better one, I don't know. Um, in any case, the idea is not to be afraid of death either, if that should be on the agenda of the soul. But a lot of people, I think it's to find the freedom within, so that if they are on the verge, hi Lindsay, if they are on the verge of passing and what we call death, if they are on that verge, then you know, regardless of the hurry and scurry that we're trying to grab on, and it's not necessary to grab on to be attached to this orb, and the only security that we think that we know is not necessary. Maybe our place or the soul's purpose is to influence other people because of our death, because of our passing, because that's all it really is. It's a passing. We're going from one consciousness into another consciousness that's really much greater. And that's, you know, my experience, my understanding, etc. And so, and my teachings as well. And so the soul is only directing them to find peace so that there is no suffering, but at the same time to influence others within our atmosphere, in the immediate environment, or far reaching into our friends and families and stuff like that. They get affected as well, even in death of a child, which is so impressive to people that they're so deep in heart that it affects them, and with that passing of the child. So everything is a part of everything else. Everything is influencing everything else in the way we think, the way we act, the way we treat others, the way we treat ourselves. Everything is influencing and synchronistic. And so, and maybe that's why we're here, to get to know ourselves and to get to help others to know their true self, and to experience it all. And so, Patty, my dear friend, you wrote a question for me. Can you talk a little bit about the morphic fields and how to utilize these fields in healing? Yeah, sure. How are we doing here? We're doing pretty good. The morphic field, quantum science refers to as the emanations that come forth from us as the fields of information. And we all have it. It's our electromagnetic field that carries information. It retains the structure of the cell and the structure of our body, of what we look like, based upon what our development at this time on Earth has been, and forms within us and on this shell around us, and how we experience our life. And so I feel the morphic fields we can utilize, and I teach this during the apprentice training coming on in April. And I feel this when I'm scanning a person, or even if I'm not scanning a person, I can be standing right in front of them. I can perceive it within myself, and the pictures form. But oftentimes, or if I'm focused. And so the fields you can utilize by going to where the maximum amount of electromagnetic strength is coming from, and you can actually pinpoint on a person, oh, right here, and they'll say, ow, and 90% of the people that you touch there, they'll say, ow, that's sensitive, I didn't even know I had that. Well, that's the spot that we can go to and put our hand on, or even away, imagining that their body is right next to ours, even though it may be 5 feet away, or a foot away, or 6 inches, or 2 inches, or it can be on the other side of the world. We can put our hand there, and where you imagine, to image in action where this body is. And depending upon the reality where we want to go with it, it can affect that person, and there'll be a shift where that log jam was. I refer to them as log jams, or and the log jams are caused by what I refer to as shock traumas of that person's life, as minor or major as it is. So it's the emanations coming forth from us, intermeshing what's coming forth from them, and somewhere in between they're changing, and ours coming from a place of consciousness is where that's going to affect them if we're conscious of what we're doing, which I teach. And so you can be conscious of that in your mind and your heart, and that will create a definite change. Good, Patty. Good. Good. All right. Oh, Janet, my dear friend. Janet, she wrote, hi, Mark. Not sure if this is the email address for questions for Wednesday. Yes, it is. This morning in my meditation, as I was sending healing to others, I included you. Thank you. Then, good. Thank you. I appreciate that. And that's a good thing to do with people. While you're sitting there real calmly, you can have meditations or exercises, and the exercise can even be sending healing to others, and watch them in the greatest of health. Say if you know someone who's feeling under the weather, you can, in your mind's eye, keep the focus of like all of a sudden, say if their arm hurts, you can watch them in their life going, oh, this feels great, it's even going higher than the other one. And moving around like that. And the longer you can hold that thought, then let it go, drop it. You set the law of cause and effect into action, which creates something. And that something is going to be effective in their body. And if you were to, and if you see something while you're in the focus of it, if you see something that's destructive, then stop it and start it over again. We're given a billion chances. Because we can't get it the first time doesn't mean that we're not going to get it the second time or the 20th time. So we're always given another opportunity, because we have free will. We have the ability to create something. That's our gift, one of our gifts. And so once you, uh, you know, find flaw in your thought, or you start thinking about something else in your thought, or remembering something, or you get interrupted, then picture it again, stop and start over again. That turns into a greater potential future focus, an ability to focus. And that's what we're going after, is holding our the ability to hold our thoughts a little bit longer and longer and longer. And the average person has a thought for maybe without interruption between who knows, a second all the way up to 7 seconds. And so without thinking of something else or something else interjecting. And we have the ability to um, develop ourselves freely. And in this development, we can affect more potently a situation. So if we learn how to do that through focus exercises, then we'll see literally miracles around us happening. And they do. They do. So, um, so she also wrote, I know that you've been to the Seattle area, hotbed for Corona, hoping you are well. Yes, I am. I am, and thank you. Um, Another thing I want to talk about, she reminded me, with the coronavirus, it's a very real thing. And I think, spirituality is a blending of both worlds, heaven and earth. That's the true spirituality. We're here for a purpose. We're living on this orb that has solidity to it, that has dimension to it. And so, while we're on the orb, it's good to adhere to, some things that are affecting us, like washing our hands. It's very important. Um, I also know that in the spiritual aspect of it, that and many people in my order as well, we're taught we have this atmosphere, we can accept disease or not accept it. And it was easy for many people, and I'm a diehard on this too. Um, so it was easy for people in the order at the time that the order was fully functioning in certain ways. That's a true statement. Our atmosphere, and we don't have to accept something, or we can accept something, or things happen, whatever, and under our control. So we have the ability to manipulate those things. But many, many years later, I see some of my order friends. They're saying, "Oh my God, I'm never going out again. I'm going to get this disease," and hide if you want. And so I don't believe uh, the latter. I believe with all my heart. I believe it. Hi, Meredith. Good to see you. And there'll be a replay of this too, Meredith. And so I truly believe with all of my heart that um, that we have the ability to not accept many a thing. I've been around many contagions. I mean many, and I just wanted to hug the people, and by God, nothing has transpired. I'm not saying anything won't. I can be struck with the corona, and I can die by it. That's fine. I don't mind. Um, I'm not going to go into the panic that a lot of the world is in, and I'm going to keep control of my mind at the same time. Hey, Stephen, good to see you, my dear friend. Good to see you. Please, there is a replay on this, Howard, and good to see you. And so I know inside myself that there's something that's more knowing than me. And I'm trying with all my life, with all my heart, to come to it as much as I can in my life and learning the acceptance of it. And I know it's there to guide, I know it's there to direct, and I know it's there to protect. That's what it does. as we allow it to. But I do highly recommend washing your hands or whatever. And if there is a little bit of mistrust of the world or the fear factor in the back of our minds without us even knowing it at times, watch it, and watch it also come out of you like a gaseous fume as you remember that fear, or you have a thought of that fear, or someone else mentions that fear. Because every single time, it's like a little tiny seed is being planted that those things happen. So we have to imagine it. Image in action. It's not pretend, it's not fantasy, it's imagining. Imagination to image in action. Watch this gaseous fume come forth from you. That was that fear. Watch it. Every time there's a thought or there's a reaction within you, or you don't want to get the cooties, watch it, observe it. Very important. Very, very important. So, if there's any questions about that, please, feel free to ask. Also, Roxy wrote, as Janet wrote, as I tuned into your spirit in her meditation or exercise. Hey, Nahini, good to see you, my dear friend. As I tuned into your spirit, I was immediately connected to the lovely, giddy, joyful energy I encountered in Tucson at the Healing Circle. My question is, who are the guides and angels and beings that you connect with and work with in your healing existence and work? Funny question. Good. I never thought about it. Well, I really don't have names for them. And everyone has angelics and other beings all around them, a menagerie of them. It's not just one guardian angel or two little angels or big angels or whatever, or protectors or anything like that. I don't know. Is that it's mostly within, all I do know is that it's mostly within the consciousness of what I refer to as Raphael. To me, Raphael's not an angelic or an angel per se. In my understanding, my experience, a lot of experience in my life, not your experiences or anything else, but my experiences is that Raphael is a consciousness that goes on forever, all around us, 360. It goes. There's no beginning and no end to it. It's a consciousness. And one time, many years ago, I think this was in 1999 or 98, 99 I think, or 19, or 2000, the beginning of 2000. I don't remember, somewhere around there. I was sitting at my desk, or even way before that. I was sitting at my desk, and I had this ream of paper, and I had a big case of pens, pencils, erasers, everything, and I took a piece of paper off the ream and I put it on. Hey, Cynthia, good to see you. Don't forget to replay this where you missed it. I put the piece of paper on my desk and put a pen in my hand, and I'm going to start writing a book, my first book. And all right, so here I am starting to, get all ready to write my book, and I figured, okay, I'm going to start writing, and nothing would come out of me. I sat there for 3 hours. 3 hours not knowing what to write to start my book. I knew I had to write a book, and in my mind, and so I'm sitting there, and I started getting tired, just trying to think of what to write, and I didn't know how to start or what to finish with or begin with or go in the middle with or anything. And it'll be posted, Meredith, right on this page, Spiritual Healing with Mark Ehrlichs. And so so I started putting my head down. I thought I'd just rest for a minute and maybe something would come to me. This is after 3 hours of sitting there, not knowing what to do. And so as I'm putting my head down, then all of a sudden, there must have been at least 100 voices coming from everywhere, and they were talking and talking and talking about healing. And um, there were all kinds of voices: male, female, young, old, ancient, you name it. And I was getting to see some faces and all this other stuff, and they were just bombarding me with information of what to write about. And it was so loud in my head, I yelled, "Stop!" And I said, "Just one." And then one voice took over and started, or began to tell me, "As you begin to write, I'll be there. Find me." And so I put my pen on my paper, and I started. That's the first thing I wrote. "As you begin to write, find me. I'll be there." And then some words came to me on the beginnings of what to write about, and that's how I came up with my first book, Awaken. Well, uh, the Healer book. So yes, the Lynn just put up the experiential healing information when people are wanting to, um, look into that. Please do. And the first book, it just started coming through, and I didn't even have a title until the end. And uh, it, it's available. All of the books are. The Awaken book is available. Take My Life is available. The Awaken audio CD is available through Nightingale Conant, or you can get it directly from me. I charge more for it though, and theirs is always on sale. Um, so in any case, it was a number one seller for them for a while, which was really awesome. But I didn't have names for any of those angelics or other beings, the spirits or whatever. I didn't have all of them that I've ever met in my life. I've never had names for, and I never, inquired. I never cared. Uh, but it's a way for people to identify, and there's nothing incorrect about that. Um, but I always know that during life changes, other beings come through to replace the old ones according to where you're at in the moment. And that's my understanding. And so I never thought of asking for names, though. It just never came to me. Good question, though. And let's see. Also, Janet wrote, um, I'm hoping that you'll be here for the workshop on the 28th, and that I'll be able to be with you in Eagle, Colorado. I'm doing a private training for a few people, an apprentice training. They asked me to. So I'll be going there on the 28th of, excuse me, I don't know when that is. um, of March, yes. No, it can't be. That's another date. It's in April. It'll be in April. And, or unless she's talking about the workshop, the one-day workshop in Tucson. And I will be able to go to Eagle, Colorado, though, so don't worry about that. I already saw it happening. I'll keep you posted of any changes, though. Kathy, my friend, wrote, Happy Wednesday, Mark. Can you state for me again the meaning of Gnostic, which comes from the word nous? Thank you. To me, Gnosticism, very simply, and I won't go into the in-depth understandings of Gnosticism. I know very little about it. I am a Gnostic within myself, and that's what it means. And to be a Gnostic is to, in my understanding, in my life, is to learn about the godliness, because it never ends in the learning process of it. That's my whole belief system, what it's all about in a nutshell. And let's see, Lindsay wrote, let's see, how are we doing? Oh my God, we're almost done here. Last question. Lindsay wrote, Greg Braden, he was a friend of mine too for a long time. He has a lot of videos out on spirituality. The one I was watching last night indicated our bodies are a projection, like a holographic image our soul makes to play out. It says our bodies are a projection. Yes, they, in a sense, they are. In one sense, they are, and I agree with that. Like a holographic image that our soul does make to play out, and so we're just like a shell, basically, on earthly terms. We're a shell for this inside. And the way we look today is according to our environment, what we grew up with, our friends, our families, our interactions, all the situations, events of dilemmas, dramas, and traumas of our lives is what makes us into who we are, what we are today in every aspect. Our expressions, how we learn to laugh, everything. I'm in total agreement with that. And the soul carries what we're going to be working with in this life, this particular life. And it's always being presented to us, and what we're dealing with in our life, or being challenged with in our life, or meeting in our life. So, and she says, and if this is pretty accurate, why do we do this? Because we're born into this environment of who we are, what we are, why we are today, Lindsay. And so that's why we play in life. I think playing in life as well lightens the soul to some degree, and I like to play. And so we can't experience the bliss all the time. If we did, we would implode, and we wouldn't have a place here on Earth. Or we'd be a great avatar for people. And so, in any case, thank you so much, Patty. And thanks, Lynn, for putting up all the information. The workshop is on March 28th. There will be also the Healing Circle on the 27th at the Unity there, and the workshop's going to be at the Unity at Tucson there. And the appointments are booked. So I might be coming in another time, and for other arrangements, and so that will be announced. The fellow sponsoring me there is also, noticing that there are a lot of people attracted to this. So I really want to thank everyone there. Please go to the website, markehrlicks.com. And you'll see the events there, and also about the apprentice training. Take advantage of it. It's awesome. It's truly, truly awesome. Blessings to everyone here, and I'll see you next week. And please have questions. Have lots and lots of questions. We love that. Blessings to you all. Everyone have a good evening. Bye-bye.